Hey y'all, let's get this Sunday meal prep done. So what we're cooking today is some lasagna. You see me putting a little olive oil in the skillet so I can saute the veggies. And again, this is going to be a pantry lasagna. The only veggies that I really had on hand to go with lasagna is red bell pepper and onion. I just didn't feel like going to the store, so here we go with another pantry item and using what you have. You can make it work. As you see, I put that little bit of olive oil in the skillet and I am sweating down a little piece of that onion and red bell pepper. Look, you know my motto, use what you have. You don't have to make 800 trips to the store. I added just a little bit more avocado oil there. Did I say avocado oil in the beginning? I don't know. But my oil of choice is avocado oil. And I added a little bit more there because I was going to use, but I used fresh garlic. And so I want to make sure that the garlic didn't burn because there is nothing worse than having that taste of burnt garlic in your dish. Yes, y'all, I use fresh garlic. Now, this was something new. I had put in a grocery order. And I usually use Shady Brook turkey, and I like to be able to see it. I personally don't usually buy the rolls of turkey or any kind of meat for the most part. No, maybe that's not true because I will with certain sausages. But anyway, with turkey, for some reason, I like to see it. But when I put my order in last week, that's what was delivered. I didn't feel like taking it back and all that kind of stuff because I also left the option selected that if they didn't have something, they can select for me. So that's what I get. Anyway, I used it and it actually wasn't all that bad. So after my veggies had sweated down, I added that turkey in there. And here I'm seasoning it a little bit. Again, not using really a lot of salt. That was garlic powder, onion salt. And this is the Tony Chachere's no salt. I like my food flavorful, as I've previously stated, but not salty. Couple dashes of turmeric. Turmeric is good for you. This is just a little bit of tomato bouillon powder and a little bit of smoked paprika. But again, if these are not the flavors that float your boat, use the flavors that float your boat. These are the flavors that we tend to like over here and use. And again, if I'm out of a seasoning, I will make do with what I have. And I don't like to manipulate my turkey a lot because I believe it makes turkey a little bit tough. Those were the noodles are the noodles that I used. And so what I was doing right next to that meat as it was cooking down, I had a pot of boiling water with some salt. And I want to say I added 6 pasta noodles because I only had that one roll of meat. So I knew I didn't need, too many noodles for the lasagna. Again, I mixed the meat up just a little bit. And there you can see me checking the noodles. And the thing with the noodles, I wanted them al dente. I didn't want them completely done because I knew the lasagna had to go in the oven. So I don't want it's weird, but I like for my noodles to have still a little bit of texture, not hard, not chewy, but not so soft that they disintegrate when you eat the lasagna. So that's what I was checking there. Again, I was moving that meat around just a little bit, but I try not to manipulate it too much because I also knew that the pasta sauce had to eventually go in there. So again, with those noodles, you see with my cooling rack, I was putting a little bit of olive oil on it because I was getting ready to take the noodles out of the water and I did not want them to stick. So that's why I used my basting brush and I put a little bit of olive oil on it and spread it over the wire rack. So when I take the noodles out, they won't stick to the rack when I got ready to use them. And so that is what I'm doing right here. I thought I had some of the no-bake lasagna noodles, but I didn't. And like I said, once again, this is a pantry lasagna. And over here we use what we have. I do go to the grocery store, but I don't run to the grocery store for any and everything. I I will take something out of that pantry and I will make a meal out of it. And that's just what I did because y'all, yesterday we hung out in DC. We went to the National Arboretum for the first time. And I have some video footage of that. I just haven't gotten it together yet. It was actually pretty cool. And yesterday was a good day for it. It was not too hot. So, again, I guess I have an excuse for every week here lately. I didn't do my grocery store run. I didn't do a lot of things in preparation for us being or hanging out in DC on Saturday. So that's how come today we're having what I coin as a pantry meal and making do with what we have. I only had a half a block, maybe even a little bit less, of the cheddar cheese. And let me tell you, that was fine with me. I took that little piece of cheddar cheese that I have and I grated it, and I had a full block of pepper jack cheese, I believe I had. And so pepper jack cheese worked just as well. So yeah, we made this work with that mild cheddar cheese that I did have left and that pepper jack cheese, and it was just fine. There were no complaints. And again, the whole point of me showing a lot of things that I cook is to show that you can make a good and decent meal for you and your family without running to the store every time you look up. So at this point, I believe I had already turned the meat off because I was working with that cheese. The sauce that I had on hand is Prego. And I know some people don't like using jar or canned sauces. And that's fine too. There is no right or wrong way. Whatever floats your boat. But I had some of the Prego garlic sauce. And that is exactly what I use. Hey, I'm all about time saving as well. And to be quite honest with you, I don't make homemade tomato sauce. I don't know how. I'm not going to sit here and say I can't learn, but I just choose to use jar sauce. And right here, I'm adding just a little bit more seasoning to the tomato sauce. The meat is well seasoned, so I didn't want to add too much. That's garlic powder. Because again, the point is I like the food to be flavorful, but not too salty and overdone. That's a little bit of onion salt. I'm not heavy on the salt at all. If I can taste a lot of salt, then I don't want it. It was at this point that I put the Italian seasoning in it, which I'm just about out. So actually, I need to put that on my list. That's McCormick's Italian seasoning that I was using right there. And again, just a couple dashes of turmeric. Not too heavy on that turmeric, but turmeric is really good as far as anti-inflammatory properties. That's how come I try to incorporate turmeric into any dish that I'm able to put it in. And I also like a little bit of heat. I am a spicy person. I like spicy food. However, my son does not do a lot of spice, so I have to be very careful with, adding spice into the food. But yeah, so I added a little bit there, do a little mixy, and then I'll let it sit for a little bit and mix it again. just to make sure that those flavors are incorporated. Because you guys already saw, the meat was already done, but I like for the flavors to be well incorporated when I'm cooking. So the meat, had its seasoning. The noodles were were seasoned. So with every bite, you have flavor in your food. So now what you see me about to do is I believe it's called a Bushnell sauce. Don't quote me, and I'm probably saying the name wrong, but I didn't have any ricotta. So with that being said, I made that Bushnell. I'll have to look up the name. Anyway, I made that sauce. We're not too heavy on the ricotta over here anyway, so if we don't have ricotta, that's fine. But I made this, it's like a white sauce that you make with butter. You let your butter cook down and you slowly add your flour. But you don't want to add too much flour. The way I do it is for 1 stick of butter, I do a half a cup of flour. Oh, yeah, back over there at that spaghetti sauce, because tomatoes are so acidic. And are you with somebody else? Not with me, but I do add like a little teaspoon of sugar, and my spaghetti does not taste sweet, but it is to cut the acid in those tomatoes. Now, back to this sauce, the bee sauce that I cannot pronounce. So what you see here is that butter had melted down. And so I'm slowly adding the flour. As you can see, I'm incorporating that flour a little bit at a time, because one thing that I find when you cook with flour and you're making sauces and stuff with the flour, you want to cook that flour taste out of it. You don't want to have a flour taste. To me, that's very unpleasant. And so, yeah, I'm slowly incorporating that half a cup of flour into that 1 stick of butter. And by the way, that was salted butter because I didn't have any unsalted butter. Again, your girl uses what she have. I know I've said that like 800 times, but that's literally what I do. I'm going to use what I have. And so even though I incorporate that flour slow, I still mixed it for a little bit. And it is best to use whole milk when making this sauce. I didn't have any whole milk. I only had 2%. But what I did have is some heavy whipping cream. And so what you're going to see me doing in just a minute is I used 2 cups of heavy cream and 1 cup of 2% milk. And also when I added the heavy cream, I didn't just add the 2 cups at one time. I kind of added it slowly as well. I don't know why I didn't have that heavy cream already open, but oh well. Yeah, so I actually poured that into my measuring cup as well, because I didn't want it to, I didn't want to add too much at one time. Again, giving a little bit mix to that flour and butter, and that is just to cook out that flour taste, because you don't want to be biting into your lasagna or eating your lasagna and it has that strong flour taste. But I did not want it to cook too long that it started becoming, like gravy, where it started getting dark. So you have to get it to just before it starts to brown or whatever. I don't know how to quite describe it per se, but just make sure you cook that flour taste out, and you'll see that's that my first cup of heavy cream, and I added it in slowly because I didn't want it to become pasty either. It's a little thick here in the beginning, but you have to trust the process, because as you add your milk content, it'll start to loosen up some. And this sauce, you want it to have some thickness to it, but it's not a real thick sauce. But yeah, you'll see I'm pouring, I think that was the 2% milk that I used right there. I might have told you guys okay, yeah, that's the 2% milk. I might have used 2 cups of 2% milk and 1 cup of heavy cream. I'll know here in just a minute, and I can tell you. And you see, I'm slowly incorporating it in there, giving the mixture enough time to really blend together. And at this point, I was thinking, do I really need another cup of milk or heavy cream? And I really should have stopped here, but I went ahead and added another cup, because when I started putting the lasagna together, I realized that I had made way too much of that sauce, and then I ended up throwing a lot of it away, because I knew I wasn't going to make any. That's the only thing I know how to make that uses this sauce. And so I was not getting ready to put it in the refrigerator, because I had no idea when I would make lasagna again. It's not something we make too frequently. So yes, in the beginning, I told you guys the wrong thing. I used 1 cup of heavy cream and 2 cups of the 2% milk. So again, that is just to show you, if you don't have an exact item on hand, you can make do with what you have at home. You just have to get creative, think outside of the box, and, try things. If it doesn't come out right the first time, then you know what to do better the next time. But it can also save you a lot of money.
Can you please charge me now?
I do apologize that my phone needs to be charged, and it decided to speak while I was recording this video, but we're just going to keep rolling with it. And believe it or not, that is a little bit of nutmeg that I added to this mixture. Not a lot, just a couple of dashes. And trust me when I tell you, you don't taste any nutmeg. And here I added just a little bit of Slap Your Mama, as you can see. Just a little bit, not a lot. Because remember, I used salted butter. My meat mixture is seasoned well. Not salty, but seasoned well. But you definitely don't want to add a lot of salt content to this, especially if you have used salted butter. So that's my little caveat for that. And so then I just let it cook a little bit, heavy on a little bit, not a long time, and make sure that you don't let it go any more than a minute or so without stirring it, because you don't want the sauce to get lumpy and have all these clumps and stuff in it. You want it a little bit smooth. It was at this point that I realized I forgot to add my little bit of tomato paste to the sauce, which it probably wouldn't have made a big difference. And I only added a little bit. But yeah, I added my little bit of tomato paste to the sauce. And even though that sauce came out of a jar, like I said, I like for my flavors, I like to build the flavors. I like for the flavors to marry with each other and really, I don't know the word, but come together. So that's how come, even though that is a jarred sauce, I still make sure that I let it, cook slow for a little bit. Not too much, especially with turkey, because if ground turkey is overcooked, it can become a little bit of a mess. And so I added just a little bit of garlic powder to this mixture as well. So that's what you see me doing right there. Again, if you notice, I am mixing this a lot. And you want it to be a little thick, but not so thick that it's pasty. And you see, I was lifting the whisk up because I was making sure that it was thick, but still can be poured easily. And so here, what I'm doing is I always start with a little bit of sauce, and I put a little bit of that bee sauce down on top of it so the lasagna noodles would not stick to the bottom of the pan. Some people say they spray their pan with oil. I chose not to do that. I rather use the sauce, and I could have probably used a smaller pan, but I did not. And it was fine. It was fine using this foil pan. And so again, some more of the meat mixture. And you see what I mean about that sauce? It's kind of thick, but it's not clumpy, and it's still really loose. And y'all, there's that cheese. I said I didn't have, a lot of cheddar, and I only had that 1 pack of pepper jack. So, I mean, it was enough. The lasagna is really good, but I was, being careful, making sure that I had cheese. And I only did those 6 noodles because I knew I did not have a lot of meat mixture. So, more than 2 layers wasn't going to work. And at first I thought, oh my goodness, 2 layers? This is about to be crazy. But y'all, this lasagna was good. There's some more of that sauce. And some people spread their sauce completely to cover the meat mixture. We like ours a little bit on the lighter side. So there I go with that cheese. And y'all, when I tell you it wasn't a lot of cheese, I did have some shredded cheese up in there that I probably could have used. But when I cooked pasta dishes that go in the oven, I just prefer shredded cheese, not shredded cheese. I prefer block cheese, and shredding it myself, I feel like it melts better. Y'all see me tip that bowl upside down? I didn't film putting it in the oven, but what you see right here is it had been in the oven, and after 15 minutes, I took the cover off. The reason why I covered it with foil when I first put it in the oven is because, remember, that was my son putting garlic bread in the oven next to it. But remember, like I was saying, those noodles were al dente. So for the first 15 minutes, I had foil on it, so it would trap that moisture in there and cook those noodles to the right consistency. And y'all, I try and incorporate my son in everything I cook in some way so he can learn how to cook for himself, because that is something that I just really haven't done a great job at, in teaching him how to cook. So look at him trying to flip that bread. I just knew he was going to flip that bread on the floor, but he didn't. And so he was like, the direction said to flip it after 3 minutes. I did not want to open that oven again after 3 minutes. And I feel like that bread could have cooked a little bit longer. But he's learning how to read directions and go by the directions. See, I would have kept it up in there just a little bit longer until it browned. But whatever. And so when he took the bread out, what I did, at that point, the lasagna had been in the oven for about 35 minutes or so. So once he took the bread out, I hit it with the broiler. And yeah, so after we ate and stuff, I didn't even sit down. I got right on cleaning that kitchen, because had I not cleaned that kitchen and started doing my cleaning, I would have got comfortable after eating those carbs, and even though I didn't eat a lot. But anyway, I have talked this whole video. So for the rest of the video, I am going to be quiet and let y'all see me do my Sunday reset cleaning. And I hope that it inspires you to get up and do some sort of meal prep. And using what you have, don't run out to the store, figure out what you have and use that. And also inspire you to do some sort of cleaning that you may have been putting off or need to do to help you prepare and be somewhat ahead of the game for the week. So if you guys made it at least this far, I appreciate you joining me. If this is not your first time here, thank you for coming back. If this is your first time here, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. And so from here, I am going to be quiet and just say thank you guys so much for joining me and have an awesome week.